Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print3D channel. Today is September 27th, and that means day 270 of the 3DP 365 project. And on today's episode, we pick up where we left off yesterday with the low polygon lighthouse on a rock print. And we were queuing it up in Magenta, and of course it failed too. But I have another print I'm working on too for tomorrow's episode, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. So stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me here for day 270 of the 3DP 365 project. Well, we're having a little bit of a failure issue, and it's not due to the filament or the printer. It has everything to do with my settings and how it's handling this model. Now, I set up multiple processes in this, and I'll show you that in Simplify 3D in a little bit. But first thing I want to show you is the model itself. This is from yesterday, and I showed you guys that it started to under extrude and have all kinds of problems there right at the end. And this is going into my secondary process, which slows the extruder down and decreases the infill, and also starts enacting the allow gap fill enhancement feature in Simplify 3D version 4.0 for a good chunk of it, which on here on the Magenta one, you can see it actually survived a lot longer than yesterday's print. And the problem is, and the reason why I have multiple processes set up, is I wanted to save plastic, and I also wanted to use multiple processes using the variable settings wizard. And this part of the print, the actual lighthouse part, when I sliced it in Simplify 3D, it has a single perimeter interior wall and a single perimeter exterior wall, and it wasn't filling with any infill. Now, I didn't want to crank up the infill to like 50% just to get something to go in there. Hence the reason why we have the new Allow Gap Fill feature enhancement in Simplify 3D to fix that. But because it's so small, and all those windows and all those other things, it was a ton of retraction. So what happens is the extruder will come along here and it'll just kind of, almost like a sewing machine at a slow speed even, because this is a small surface. So like if it was a large surface at 35 millimeters per second, it would be wee, wee, wee. But on a small surface, it's more like a sewing machine, so you really need to slow it down. And I think I might turn off that allow gap fill feature and just go with the thin walls, because this is a display piece, isn't something that people are going to be handling, because once it's done, we're going to put some lights in it, and I might even gMaxSize it. But anyway, I don't think I really need the allow gap fill feature on here if it's going to cause that much problem, because I think what's happening is as it's going around doing that sewing machine style move, the feeder gear will actually chew a little bit into your filament to drive it down. And when you're going up and down like that, with the extruder moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it'll start to tear up a section of the filament, and it has nothing to grip. So eventually what will happen is the pressure of the spring, especially on the gMax, it's got that spring-loaded system, will push it against it enough that it starts to feed a little bit, and it may continue printing. Or it may fail completely, and as it gets high enough, and there's enough room for it, and it stops doing all those retraction moves, you start to get spiderweb spaghetti. So that's what the problem is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my multiple process setting in Simplify 3D, and I'm going to change the allow gap fill feature down to nothing, just perimeters only for this section, and then slow it down an additional 10 millimeters per second, because I think this is printing at 30, and then the top, which is a little bit of a nightmare of under extrusion and extruder clicking, it started to print again. So I think I can get this to print. Now I'm going to put aside my two fails and I bail rule, because I really want to see this print, and I know it's not the model, I know it's not the filament, and I know it's not my printer. I know it's the settings in Simplify 3D. So I'm going to adjust those settings, and we are going to make one more attempt at this. I don't think it'll be tomorrow, because I already have a print for tomorrow, because I like to do a little bit of a backup plan when I know there's going to be some sort of fail. And I have some parts for the print for tomorrow. It's a practical print, but I don't want to show you everything because that'll kind of give away what tomorrow is. And it's not like it's a surprise or anything. I just want you guys to see what I printed and, you know, bask in the coolness of it when I do my assembly of it, because it's got multiple parts. And here's two of the parts, and I've got a boatload of support material to clean out. And I've already cleaned out a little bit on the first part there, and you can see it turned out pretty good in there. It's pretty clean. But I think I'm going to get out the rotary tool and go at this a little bit because the clippers just wasn't making any headway, and I don't want to spend 3 or 4 hours pulling out support material on these last 2 pieces for our video because I could be printing something in that time. And either way, I want this to turn out really good because I want you guys to see this tomorrow. So I have a few parts for tomorrow's print. I'm just not going to show you the rest. I mean, I can show you one more piece, and it turned out perfect. This is Matterhackers Silver. Obviously, this is Matterhackers Magenta in the Pro Series. And the other parts, I can see them over there on my desk. They all turned out really, really good. If you happen to be watching Calvin and Jimmy's live stream last night, you probably saw me printing those other parts, take them off the print bed, and start these parts. So you might have an idea of what I'm printing. I don't think I said what I was going to be printing for my practical print, so I don't know. You may have to go watch the video and see. But either way, go check out the video. There was a nice little live stream with Jimmy Shaw and Calvin over at Make It With Calvin, and Chris from Practical Printing showed up, and we had a couple people in the chat room. It was a cool little hour of discussing 3D printing stuff, so go check that out. But I did show, you could see in the background the gMax printing, the other parts, you see it finish, and you see me load up these other parts for the rest of that print. So, and I did preview what had happened to the Lighthouse in that episode too, so you can get a little bit more insight, maybe a couple of close-ups, and how we talked about what the problem is. And the problem is retraction in this last little setting in my multiple processes, and I'm definitely going to try and fix it and reprint this. I'm definitely dropping my 2 fail and bail rule to try and get this to print because I really want to see this and put some lights in it. And of course, once I finish cleaning up all the support material, you guys will see that print tomorrow. Well, that about wraps it up for day 270 of the 3DP 365 project. If you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out the affiliate links down in the description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, so here we are in Simplify 3D, and here is the low polygon lighthouse on a rock model. And as you can see over here in my process settings, I have 3 processes set up. And let's go through these real quick and I'll show you what we're doing here. Obviously, here's my basic setting for everything, which is a 0.16 millimeter layer height. And we're also doing variable infill depending on the process. So this first process, we have 15%, and the big difference here is 40 millimeters per second. Again, we are running at 0.16 millimeter layer height. We have 4 top layers, 3 bottom layers, 3 perimeters. And for this process, for the first process, we're going to use 15% of the infill, which will go into just in the rock section. And with 4 top layers, that'll make sure that the little stairs turn out really good. So I'm just going to hit cancel because just in case something changed while we were clicking around. Back under layer height, still 0.16. I've turned off the bottom solid layers, but in multiple processes, you usually don't have a problem with these. And I made sure the top solid layers is still on. Under speeds, we're down to 35 millimeters per second. And here you can see I have the allow gap fill. Now that is for this section here of the lighthouse, which is the lighthouse and the houses themselves. Because like I said, those are single wall perimeters that are being printed there. And I thought that would be too weak. So I wanted to make sure we added a little bit more plastic. So that's why I turned that on. So for this next part here, for the next print, we're going to go back to perimeters only, and I'm going to hit OK on this one. And then on the third process, double click on the third process, we still have our 0.16 millimeter layer height, 4 top layers, 3 bottom layers, and 3 perimeters. Under speeds, we're down to 25 millimeters per second, so we're going to drop this down to 15, because remember, it's a very small area. So even at 25 millimeters per second, it's still racing around. If it was a larger area, you would really see the speed difference. But for this, since it's just the top part of the lighthouse, just where the light is, it's a very small surface area. Default printing speed of 15 millimeters per second. I think this should be able to reduce those retraction issues. And of course, I'm going to turn off the allow gap fill on the third process too, and make sure that we're doing perimeters only in both external thin wall and internal thin wall, and hopefully that will give us a better print. It is going to be not as structurally sound as the one I originally wanted to print, but again, this is just a display item, so this isn't something anybody's going to handle. So we'll just hit OK here, and we'll hit prepare to print, and we'll hit select all, we'll hit OK, and we'll let it do its thing here real quick, and we'll go under current process, and you can see where I've set up my current processes.